And welcome to In The Treehouse. I am Coach Connor, Mike Connor, here in North Georgia. Glad to have you with us again out here as we have great conversations with business owners about their dreams, their challenges, their lives, and just learn from their experiences. It's a great opportunity. I have Nick Ford with me today, a friend that we have just recently met and got to know each other both on a panel this past week. And so looking forward to talking with Nick a little bit and getting to know you. I appreciate you being here. Before I do that, I do want to shout out to a couple of sponsors that we have. First, of course, Action Coach, the business that I have, and we coach businesses from startups to big businesses to help them to become more efficient, make more money, and do that. And so, as part of getting out there and letting people know what we do, they sponsor this show. The other sponsor, of course, is Fist Bump. Fist Bump is that LinkedIn tool, folks, that will help you to become the known entity in your marketplace. A great group of folks over there. Brandon and all the folks who are behind the scenes, and they help produce this show. And so they really help you build your reputation into revenue. And so encourage you to check them out. Business is out of the way. Now we get to have fun.
Yeah.
And so Nick, here in the treehouse, we all had tree houses when we were kids, place where we just let our minds go. So tell us, what was your tree house when you were a kid?
Yeah. So my name is Nick Ford. I'm the owner of Transparent Staffing. And growing up, the Treehouse was not owning a staffing company, believe it or not. I had no idea that there was whole companies dedicated to helping other companies do recruiting.
Yeah.
So as a kid, I was an active athlete. Me and my brother both played sports, and I grew up fond of baseball. So I played baseball from about age 6 all the way up through college.
Yeah.
And so as a young kid playing baseball, I was in Dallas watching the Texas Rangers, and my treehouse was being a Ranger.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I was a pitcher. So, I looked
that
up.
was the Roger Clemens.
So
Or was that before your time?
That was probably a little bit before my time. Okay. I grew up, so with the Rangers, I grew up watching like Pudge Rodriguez and A-Rod was on there.
Okay.
And I looked up to Nolan Ryan.
Okay.
As a pitcher. And I have a framed picture of him when he got hit in the face and got stitches, but pitched the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So I looked up to those guys and thought that I'd be a professional baseball player. And, obviously I got to play through college. So I got to play a lot longer than a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
Where'd you play?
Played at a school called Harding University. It's a D2 school in Arkansas.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's fun. It was a good experience. I learned a lot from playing baseball. So.
Yeah. Baseball is great. And I coach my daughter's softball team.
Oh, nice.
And it's just fun. It's like the All-American type of thing.
Yeah.
Right? And people come out and enjoy and have a good time.
Yeah.
So you were a pitcher.
I was a pitcher. Yeah. Yeah. I pitched through college. I was a starter in high school, and we had a really strong high school team. My sophomore year, we were in the state championship.
Okay.
And then going into, my junior year, we had 4 guys that one got drafted and 3 guys went and played D1 as pitchers.
Wow.
So now I'm a starter.
Yeah.
Started going to junior year. I was like the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I always had a strong arm. And so, pitching through college, playing a college sport becomes more like a job.
Yeah.
You got to really be invested in it more than just to have fun. It's got to be, you got to be dedicated to it. But it taught me a lot about time management, about work ethic, how to work with people.
Yeah.
Now working with teams in the business world, and understanding people, that was invaluable.
Yeah. So and we had someone on as well on the show that was very similar, experience. They weren't a pitcher, but they were a ball player, and they were going to be a professional ball player.
Yeah.
Right. And played through college and all. But at some point, in high school and even in college, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go pros. right? I mean, that's every dream,
Yeah.
right? Especially when you're getting there.
Yeah.
At what point did that become a realization that it's like, you know what, this is going to end at this particular time, and I got to do something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when I got to college, because I still felt like I had some ceiling to reach.
Yeah,
Coming out of high school, as far as just like you got to be at a certain velocity
yeah,
as a pitcher. Like if you're not throwing 90 plus, you're not going to get looked at.
yeah,
And so going into college, I was touching maybe 88,
yeah.
and I went to Harding partly because they had a really good pitching coach, and he had
Mhm.
spent like 10 years in the minor and major leagues,
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn a lot from this guy. And I knew I had some mechanical things to work on that would increase my velocity and control and stuff like that. And so I think that going into college, I still kind of held on to that dream that like, okay, maybe I could make it. Maybe I
yeah,
could, go after college into the majors and get
yeah,
drafted or whatever. But after I got to college, and then you're with all the guys who were all the star of their high school team,
yeah.
then you kind of get humbled a little bit. Even at the D2 level, I was like, all right, I'm not the all star anymore. Like,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of these guys were the all
Yeah,
star.
yeah, yeah.
And so
You
then
go from being a big fish in a small pond to being a small fish in a bigger pond.
oh yeah, and then you got these guys who are like 22 who are like grown men
Yeah,
that are really really talented and had been playing at that higher level for a few years by then. And so I think that at that point I was like, all right, I'm just gonna enjoy college baseball
mhm,
and enjoy this experience. I got most of my school paid for, which is
yeah,
great.
yeah.
So
That's
I stuck it out all 4 years, even though at times it was challenging,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
So
yeah. It makes me think. I have a friend who he has a fitness center
yeah,
here in Holly Springs and or Hickory Flat, but over that way, and he specializes in working with athletes who are going to that level. And I just saw him the other night. His daughter's on my softball team as well.
okay,
And I said to him, it's like, so did you have anybody in the draft? He's like,
mhm,
yeah, we had one who got picked up in the NFL draft in the fifth round, fourth or fifth round.
yeah,
It's like, cool, and so, but we've talked about the difference in a person's physicality that's going that way as opposed to somebody normal like me. It's just like
yeah,
there are genetic things that
yeah.
happen with people who are at that level.
Yeah, and I would say too. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the mental side of it.
Yeah,
I think it was Yogi Berra said something like baseball's 50% mental, or baseball's 90% mental, and the other half is physical.
yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah,
is just a funny quote.
yeah, yeah,
But I remember as a freshman, we probably had 40 guys try out for our freshman team of like 18,
yeah,
and 4 guys made JV as freshmen. And those 4 guys, who were by far the most talented of the freshmen, they all phased out by senior year. None of them were still playing.
wow,
So the 4 most naturally gifted physically
yeah,
were not dedicated to it enough to stick it out and want to work at it and
wow,
stay with it.
yeah,
And I wasn't the most talented guy, but I stuck it out, and I had a live arm, I had a strong
yeah,
arm, but I wanted it,
yeah,
and that's a lot of times what it'll come down to.
yeah.
So
So fun in college,
yeah,
dream, the yes, but then life hits,
yeah.
and you leave college, and what then? Because you didn't jump right into transparent staffing.
I didn't jump right into transparent staffing. So it's kind of a funny story. I studied professional sales at Harding.
Okay.
Which I think is a degree that needs to be more widespread. There's so many business majors that are like in management, or
Yeah.
they're in other programs, marketing, and they're going to go into some kind of sales role
Yeah.
probably. So I think there should be more sales programs. But as a junior in college, I remember sitting down with my business advisor, my degree advisor, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you need to have a internship to graduate. You need to have that."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I didn't know that." And he was like, and it's like maybe February or March,
Yeah.
and I'm going into my senior year the next year.
Yeah.
I was like, "So you're saying I have to have an internship like this summer then?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh no, you could do it during the year next year." And I was like, "I'm playing baseball. I can't have an internship, do school, and
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
baseball." He's like, "Oh yeah, well then you need one." So you got to do it this summer. You have like 2 months to find an internship.
Yeah.
So I started applying everywhere, and I found out about Jackson Healthcare here in Alpharetta, local to here,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna start cold calling."
Yeah.
So I cold called Jackson Healthcare,
And now you were in Arkansas.
I was in Arkansas,
and
but my parents. I was from Georgia. My parents were in Georgia. They're still in Peachtree City.
Okay.
So I was from here, and I wanted to come back to the Atlanta area to do my internship for the summer. And really, probably after I graduated, I think I'd already planned on coming back to Atlanta.
Yeah.
But I cold called Jackson Healthcare, and the front desk answers, and they're like, "Yeah, well, I know that all of our companies have already hired all of our interns for the summer. It's March already." And I was like, "Okay." And she's like, "Well, I'll send you to the corporate recruiter though, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
they'll see if they have anything left." And so I get a hold of the corporate recruiter, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm a sales major. I go to this school called Harding University, and I'm an athlete, and I'm looking for an internship for the summer." And she's like, "Okay, well, send me your resume, and I'll kick it over to our sales leaders and see if they want to hire another person. I know they've already hired everybody."
Yeah.
And so that ended up turning into an internship. The corporate recruiter I just so happened to cold call, she was dating a guy who had played baseball at Harding. Which was like,
go figure.
Yeah, small world.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh yeah, I know."
Kind
Harding.
of a God thing.
Oh yeah. And then I found out that a girl that also had gone to Harding was working full time. So I connected with her on LinkedIn, messaged her, and was like getting insights into the company and stuff that helped me in the interview process. And so anyway, that's how I got started in staffing. And again, like I had no idea there was whole companies dedicated to recruiting.
Yeah.
And so I got into there, and I loved it. I loved networking. I loved recruiting. I loved connecting people.
Yeah,
that was the biggest thing. I love being that matchmaker to someone's next career move.
Yeah.
And so I did that at Jackson for about 5 years. And
so the intern turned into a full-time gig.
Yeah. So I interned that summer as a junior going into a senior. And then I came back and interned again for a month over Christmas break. And then I had a full-time job when I graduated.
Yeah. So we're gonna call out here, Sean Jackson. We're connected on LinkedIn. You ought to be following this podcast. Or Shane Jackson.
Shane Jackson.
Jackson. Why did I say Sean? Shane.
Yeah.
But Shane and I are connected, and you should be following us, and you should come on the show here, Shane. So
yeah, that's
that'd
great.
Be fun.
Yeah. So Shane, they're doing a lot at Jackson Healthcare. They've got a lot of they do a lot of philanthropic work too.
Yeah, they're an awesome company. It's a great company.
Yeah, and their corporate campus is just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was there for about 5 years, and then I decided I knew I wanted to go into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So part of my treehouse, as I was going into college and realized baseball wasn't going to probably be my career, I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And part of that was my grandfather. He owned a company, a life insurance company in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
He had about 300 employees.
Wow.
So it's a pretty big company.
Yeah.
And so he sold it when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And then he went into consulting and stuff for a little while after he retired. But I looked up to him, and I was like, that was real to me, like owning a company.
Yeah.
And so
and you were telling this story the other day when we were on the panel, and I was like, I really wanted to dig into that.
Yeah.
And because you touched on a little bit of you going and talking to him and some of the stuff. So yeah.
So I mentioned I had a brother, but I would call him and ask for advice a lot.
Yeah.
And I'd have over the years before I started Transparent Staffing, I had other ideas. Like there was one idea that I wanted to start a remodeling company. I thought, okay, I'm a really good sales guy. My brother's a really good finance guy. He studied finance, accounting. I was like, we'd be good partners. And I remember I called my granddad, and I kind of had like a business plan together, and was mulling that around. And so I called him kind of to pitch him on it and see what he thought. And he kind of paused for a minute after I got done, and he was like, "Nick, that's about the worst idea I've ever heard." And I was like dumbfounded. I was like, "What?" I was like, "I thought this was a really good idea. I really thought this through." And he's like, "First of all, you and your brother don't know anything about remodeling.
Yeah,
neither of y'all even know hardly how to hold a hammer.
Yeah."
And he's "Second of all, you and your brother don't get along."
Yeah.
And it was like, "What makes you think y'all be good business partners?" And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, kind of defeated. And then at the end, and one of the things that stuck out to me the most, he was like, "Plus, if you think you're such a great entrepreneur and you believe in yourself so strongly, why would you give half of the business away to anyone else? Why would you go 50-50 with anybody?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I started Transparent Staffing, that really stuck out. I started it pretty much on my own, completely on my own. I didn't have, no one else started with me. I didn't have any investors or advisors really, other than my granddad. And so I kind of waited until I had the right idea. I started a business I was skilled at and knew the industry and that kind of thing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long have you had Transparent Staffing?
So I started Transparent Staffing in January of 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was kind of unique. I started I was an employee benefits consultant. I went into outside sales when I left Jackson Healthcare because I thought I'd done recruiting and account management mostly. So I was like, I want to learn the sales side of stuff. So if I start a company later on, I understand I'll understand the full cycle of things. And so I went into payroll sales. I sold payroll software for about a year, and then for 2 years I did employee benefits. And I had wanted to get into. I wanted to start a recruiting company. I knew by then recruiting was a business I wanted to get into on my own. And so I called into this company because I saw on LinkedIn this HR manager. She had posted that she needed help with job post writing and recruiting. And one of the pieces of advice one of our vice presidents had given the sales team was go be a consultant. Go network with people and advise them on something that you know that you can help them with, and just help them for free. And become a trusted consultant to them. And then you can talk to them about benefits. So I saw that lady's post. I was like, I'm going to help her with her job post writing and just do it for free. And then I'll get to build a relationship with her. So I messaged her on LinkedIn and offer to help her. And so she messages me like within an hour and is like, hey, can you talk this afternoon? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, let's do it. And so I get on the call, and it's not with her. It's with the owner of the company. And it turned out he owned like 5 companies. So this guy owned like a steel manufacturing plant company. He owned a large real estate holding. He owned a government contracting company that did construction on Air Force bases and military bases and stuff. And so he just starts interviewing me about recruiting. And like, hey, well, I need to hire salespeople in Thomasville, Georgia. How would you help me hire salespeople? And so I went through with him. And then by the end of the conversation, I had only intended to help them for free to connect with them. But by the end of the conversation, he was like, okay, send me a proposal. And me and the president of the company will meet with you on Friday and go over the proposal to do all my recruiting. I want you to do all the recruiting. And so I was like, yes, sir. No problem. I'll have that to you by Friday. And so I learned one of those sales things I learned was don't come to the proposal meeting with one proposal. Come with 2. And then they're more likely to choose an option. One. So I gave them 2 proposals, and we met that Friday, and they were happy with option 2. And basically, it worked out where they made me kind of like an internal recruiter, and they put me on their own email. I used their Indeed, ads and stuff, so I had no overhead. And I charged probably half of what I do now. To get started, and it was awesome.
It was a great way to start.
It's a great way to start. And
you still with them?
I don't work with them anymore. They sold that company.
Okay.
He sold the manufacturing company. I'd placed like their marketing people and some sales roles and stuff. But they were so great, and they even had me come down to Thomasville, and he had like 400 Airbnb type properties. And so he had built one as like a spec home that he put me in. Then I went to visit them, which is cool. So they treated me like an internal team member. And the cool thing about that was I went when that conversation first happened, I went to my vice president of sales, and I was like, hey, I have this opportunity to do some consulting as doing recruiting. And I told him how I initially got in was trying to get in with benefits. And I was like, are you okay with me doing this as a side thing? I don't want to do this if y'all aren't okay with it. He's like, yeah, absolutely. No problem. Go for it. And he's like, if you can get in easier with some recruiting consulting and just make sure you talk to him about benefits, and no problem. So it worked out great.
And you didn't look back.
Didn't look back. I got it going for about, I got to do that for probably 6 to 12 months on the side as a side business. And then that VP of sales left. And I was like, okay, it's time to go out and do this full time. So then I went into Transparent Staffing full time.
Very cool.
So
there was another thing you mentioned the other day that I picked up on in your conversation with your granddad. And I'm going to paraphrase here, but and you can expand on the story. But essentially, your grandfather had given you some advice about getting to know every aspect of the business.
Yeah.
So can you?
Yeah.
I mean, that was recount that story because I think that's a great story.
Yeah. So when I had first started going into the workplace, I had asked my granddad, what if I want to start my own business one day? What should I be trying to pay attention to,
Yeah.
and what should I be trying to learn? And he was like, do not just learn about your job. Don't just learn about your silo of the business.
Yeah.
So you need to learn how your job interacts with the rest of the company. So try to learn every aspect of the business that you can,
Yeah.
and understand how those different departments work together.
Yeah.
Because if you want to be, a business owner or a CEO one day, you're going to need to know how everyone works together.
Right.
And so that's what I did. I started learning how the accounting team worked with the service team, and the sales team with the recruiting team.
Yeah.
And so and that didn't just help me now as a business owner, but in my, as an individual contributor, as an employee, it helped me to know how to communicate with our partners, with
Yeah.
our clients. And because I knew who to call, like
Yeah.
I knew how things worked, and who to call when I needed something, and kind of understood how like the accounting team's job went.
Sure.
So that way I knew, like, hey, I can't call him right now. This is like month end, and he's
Yeah.
gonna be crunching stuff. Let's wait till Monday,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
give him a call to follow up on this invoice or
Yeah.
whatever it was. And so that just helped me immensely to learn every aspect of the business. Whether you plan on, you know, going into entrepreneurship or being the CEO or leader at some point or not, it's going to help you regardless.
Well, and I think a lot of small business owners, they know what they do very well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, they make widgets
Yeah.
and they know how to make the best widget in the world,
Yeah.
but all the other stuff, they don't necessarily know,
Yeah.
right? And that's where the challenge is. And I think that's where a lot of business owners get stymied is they just don't know how all of this other stuff works in order to grow their business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the guy who owns a gutter company. He knows how to install gutters,
Yeah.
but he doesn't. It's hard to get out of the day to day of installing gutters.
Yeah.
And start allocating those to other people,
Right.
and trusting that they're going to do it. One of the pieces of advice I had from a guest that I had on a podcast that I did, he talked about, we were talking about how do you decide what to do as a business owner,
Sure.
where to spend your time. And he said, calculate out how much money you want to make in a year
Mhm.
as a business owner, and what that comes out to hourly.
Yeah.
And then if you can pay someone less than what you would pay yourself hourly, then you should pay someone else to do it.
Yeah.
Which is
Absolutely.
a great piece of advice. A good
It-
way to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I spent a little bit of time working for the Koch brothers,
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
and they're very conscious of every dollar that everybody spends.
Yeah.
And in one of their books that they have you read when they come on, they give the very scenario of, if an owner is cleaning the bathroom, right, of their office, how much is your time worth, as
Yeah.
opposed to how much would you pay somebody to do that,
Yeah.
right? And if your time going out and selling and doing all of these other things is, $150 an hour, because that's bringing in that much kind of revenue if you're doing that, and yet you pay somebody $20 an hour to clean the restroom, why are you giving up $130 an hour,
Yeah.
to not do it? It doesn't make financial sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to think about it that way, because, like, on one level, you think, like, oh, if I just do this myself, maybe
I save myself money.
you think you save yourself money, or you think it'd be easier to just do it myself because I
Yeah.
know how to do it, and I don't have
Yeah.
to teach someone else how to do it.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I mean, really, even the short term, you're not being efficient with your time.
You really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is a mental jump that people have to get to say, you know what? The first time that they do it, yes, it's going to be an expense,
Yeah.
right? It's going to come out of their pocket. They're going to have to pay somebody else to do it, and it's going to hurt,
Yeah.
right? But it's not going to hurt as much the second time,
Yeah.
or the third time, or the fourth time, because it's freeing you up to do the things that you need.
Yeah. And then also, like, I thought about it earlier this year. I was getting all my books and stuff cleaned up from 2024,
Yeah.
getting ready to do my taxes and stuff like that, and needed all that to be, squared away. And I wasted so much time doing it. And eventually, I have a friend that's a CPA, and I was like, how much did you charge me to do this?
Yeah.
And I was like, why didn't I just pay you to begin with? Because for one thing, you're actually going to do it right. Because I'm not super confident that I
No.
was doing it right to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm not a CPA. I don't like accounting at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a great example of not only would it be cheaper to pay him to do it than to pay myself essentially to do it, but also probably more efficient and get done better than what I
Yeah.
would have done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, that's a great example of where I mean, what I do for
yeah,
a lot of business owners to help them to grow. So cool that you've you know done that, and
yeah,
and you got that lesson from your granddad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of lessons I learned from him too, and one of the things I think that gets lost in corporate America now too is employees feeling like we talked about this a little bit on the panel that we had,
Yeah.
but employees feeling like they have a voice
Yeah.
and being able to really have an impact, or that they're not just the guy laying bricks that's just going to
Yeah.
lay bricks all day and not
Yeah.
have any say in how it's done. But what my granddad did, he really listened to his leaders. Every Monday morning, he had all of his division leaders and directors in a boardroom, and he admitted, 85% of the time,
Mhm.
I would come to that meeting with an idea of how to do something,
Uh-huh.
and 85% of the time, I was wrong, and I would end up listening to
Yeah.
these leaders because they're on the front line. They're the
Yeah.
ones in their departments seeing how
Yeah.
the job's getting done. I'm not there every day in their
Yeah.
department. And so they usually had a better idea of how to do things than I did.
Yeah.
And if I didn't listen to them, we would have been doing it less efficient
Yeah.
and probably made them upset because they knew a better way to do it.
Yeah. There's an art to stepping out, and I mean, had he done that, he would have been micromanaging and killing, yeah,
Yeah.
productivity and otherwise.
Yeah.
But as a business grows as well, what we find is that business owner has to become more visionary and is giving the broad strokes of, hey, this is where we're going, guys.
Yeah.
You know, this is where we're going, team. You guys figure out how to get here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's that next stage of it, even, right? There's the first stage of, especially in small businesses, that are 5, 10, 15 employees, of just letting go of doing the stuff, the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, once you're there, then it's letting go of even more and letting go of even more.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing
Yeah.
deal.
It's something I'm still, working through how to allocate things and delegate things to other people and trust that it's going to get done the right way. And also getting over the fact that the people that I have work on things are not going to do it the way I would do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I've started to learn that and see it.
Sometimes they do it better than we do.
Yeah,
And it's humbling, huh?
Yeah, they found some new tool to do it more efficiently or whatever, and then it's like, wow, I wouldn't have done it that way, and I learned something. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Very cool.
yeah, absolutely.
So how many folks do you have working for you now?
So we have about 5 right now. One is full time. The others are part time to 99 contractors.
Yeah.
So I have a vice president of sales and recruiting. His name is Matt, and he joined me in November.
Cool.
And then we have several 1099 recruiters and business development people.
Yeah.
That are part time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're working toward things are moving in the right direction. So we'd like to hire probably, I think the next hire will probably be a full-time recruiter
Okay.
to work under Matt. And hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months we'll see how things go. But that's I brought on Matt with the idea, I'd been mostly an individual contributor, just in the day-to-day of the business for the last 4 years, and partly because I loved it. I like doing it. I like recruiting and working with clients and stuff. But I brought on Matt with a plan to scale.
Yeah.
And he's definitely got a mindset for that. That's his
awesome.
vision. So he's got pretty big ideas.
So what are your 3-year and 5-year plans? Where are you going? What are your dreams?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be able to scale the business. I want to be able to employ people, give people a career. The idea behind the business is to bring transparency to the staffing industry. That was the original vision of the business and still is now.
What does that mean? Sorry.
Well, so in this, not to talk badly about any other staffing agency, but there's times where they're not as transparent as they could be. For instance, with a candidate, you're talking to them about a client. It somewhat is a sales process where you feel like you're talking to the guy selling a car, and you don't know
Yeah.
that the transmission is about to go bad and that the oil's leaking
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And the sales guy's telling me this is the most
Well,
beautiful, perfect car.
this is a great candidate will be perfect for you. And
Yeah.
don't realize that,
Yeah. Or to the candidates, like this is the best job ever. Their
Yeah.
culture is amazing. Their
Yeah.
benefits are great or whatever. And the worst thing that could happen for me is to send a candidate into a job and then them to call me and be like, Nick, this is not at all what you sold me on. This is
Yeah.
not what this company is like.
Yeah.
And so we will try to be as transparent as possible with both sides. It's a two-sided coin with the candidate side and the client side.
Yeah.
So try to be as open and honest and transparent through the whole process
Yeah.
from the beginning with both sides in the recruiting process. And over the last 4 years, we've made over 40 placements, and we owe a 90-day guarantee for most of our clients, for all of our clients.
Yeah.
And so if someone doesn't work out in the first 90 days, we will replace them for free. We've only owed it one time out of over 40.
That's awesome.
So, and I have past the 90 days, I haven't heard any gripes from clients like, hey, this guy left in 6 months.
Yeah.
So we've had very high retention. And I think I chalk it up to the transparency.
Yeah.
People knew what they were walking into.
Yeah.
Is more than they would otherwise.
Yeah.
So
Very good.
Yeah.
And just because we have, owners who watch this show that are small, kind of the solopreneur who are looking to scale up to larger businesses.
Yeah.
Who is it that you work with particularly? I mean, so that they know.
Yeah.
This is your marketing pitch here. You can do.
Yeah. So the industry we've helped the most is healthcare.
Okay.
So particularly behavioral health.
Okay.
So what we've done a lot of is therapists, placing like licensed clinical social workers, licensed practical counselors, clinical leaders, so like clinic directors, practice administrators.
Yeah.
We've also gone up to medical directors and chief of clinical services. So the biggest niche is behavioral health and healthcare. But we've worked across other industries too. We've had a lot of success with sales roles.
Okay.
So like right now we're helping a logistics company that needs help with sales. So we placed a director of sales with them, an account executive.
Yeah.
Now we're working on another director level of sales role. It's a separate need. So we're fairly industry agnostic, but it depends on the relationship with the client and the type of job. The best way to describe it is we help with permanent full-time staff.
Yeah.
So we don't do temp staffing.
Yeah.
We want to help companies grow their dream teams
Yeah.
that are going to stay long-term and help them build out their organization. So we're looking at the long-term placement of candidates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And so as you scale, right, branching out beyond healthcare, it sounds like you're starting to do already.
Yeah.
And really help any industry. You can do anything.
Yeah,
So-
we can do anything. Recruiting for larger companies, a lot of times they'll have a huge database of candidates.
Yeah.
They're going and mining the same candidates they've used before, especially in like temp staffing. Like they're moving contractors around between clients, and so that's not what we really do. Every search that we do is an active search.
Yeah.
So corporate recruiters, a lot of times what they'll do is they post a job out on Indeed, they'll post a job out on LinkedIn, and they're paying for ads. And so they're doing what I call passive recruiting.
Yeah.
So they're waiting for applicants, and then they're screening the people who have applied.
Yeah.
We've made 5 placements in January, and 3 of those were people who were employed. They weren't looking for a job. We went out and recruited them. Yeah. Yeah. So we went out and recruited them. And, that's the way that a lot of times companies are going to find the best people is, not to be biased. There's a lot of people that are going through layoffs and stuff right now. That's completely out of their control. But a lot of times some of the top talent isn't necessarily looking for a job. They're happy where they are.
Yeah.
And so we're old school headhunting them.
Yeah.
We're going out and convincing them why this new opportunity is a better fit for them.
Yeah.
So,
and so if I put myself in, the small mom and pop shop who they need to hire somebody, right? And hiring, as we talked about the other day, hiring is just a challenge right now.
Yeah.
I saw the jobs numbers today.
Yeah.
There are more jobs, which is good.
Yeah.
But it still is just hard to find people for jobs these days.
Yeah, it's hard. It's an interesting time in the market. It's definitely shifted a lot in the last 2 years. And the problem that we have and that clients have is they'll go post a job on Indeed, and yeah, they'll get like maybe 200 applicants.
Yeah.
But like for instance, I just posted a job for a licensed clinical social worker.
Uh-huh.
So it's very specific. Like they don't have that license, they're not qualified. I probably got 60 applicants to that job,
Yeah.
and probably 6 of them had that license.
Okay.
And a lot of them said, yes, I have it. And then I got on an interview, scheduled an interview with them. And then they were like, oh, no, I don't actually have that license yet.
Yeah.
But I thought I might still be considered.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's small business owners, like we were talking about earlier, that's not a good use of their time to go through a bunch of applicants who are not even qualified.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is, at what point does a small business owner come to you and say, hey, I need help hiring, as opposed to just throwing a job ad out on LinkedIn or Indeed and paying, $50, $100 for the ads to get it out there and getting 200 applicants back that they have to then weed through.
Yeah. And what ends up happening a lot of times is, since the business owner doesn't have the time to do that, either one, they don't end up hiring for that job, or it takes too long.
Yeah.
Or they take a shot in the dark and hire someone that they're not sure is the best fit. And then, the cost of a bad hire is just incalculable. It's the time that's spent wasted from either your time training them or your best people training them. And then the ball getting dropped on stuff. Yeah. It's just not worth it. And so, finding someone like Transparent Staffing who can be a trusted partner who does this every day. It's an expert, especially if you're a small business and don't have a full recruiting team.
Right.
That's who we end up helping a lot. So.
Right. And do you guys, I know recruiting, there's a number of different ways that people work, right? Some, it's a flat fee. Others do a percentage of salary or whatever. I mean, how do you guys work?
Yeah. So typically we do a percentage. So it's percentage based. So that way, if it's a lower level position, the fee's obviously lower because it's, commensurate with the salary. And so the good thing is that we're contingent. Yeah. So you don't pay anything unless we place somebody. Okay. So we don't charge anything up front. A lot more agencies now are starting to do retained models. Okay. So they charge some kind of fee up front. Yeah. And then they charge a placement fee as well when they place somebody. So we have not gotten into that. I have a hard time charging someone when they haven't gotten anything yet in return for it. Yeah. But that's a model that, on the other end, sometimes that's, what if they hire someone internally, or what if they close the job? Yeah. Then I may have spent a lot of time and not got paid anything. So,
it's a risk you take.
Yeah. But that is a benefit for the client. They don't have to pay anything if they don't end up getting what they need. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, we kind of got sidetracked. What, maybe before we talk about your dreams and where you're going, what are your challenges these days? What's keeping you up at night?
Yeah. So, having hired Matt recently, understanding how to allocate my time is a challenge, and understanding what I should, be delegating to him and having him focus on versus where my skill set, is more beneficial to have me work on. And that's something that we've come a long way with just in the last 6 months or so. Yeah. Knowing what his skill set is and what he enjoys doing, what he is the most efficient at. And some of the things that he's doing are things that he's doing better than I would have done it. So it's like, okay, let's dig into that more, have him spend more time doing that. And then, like for instance, right now I'm focused more on the sales side. So I'm more into new client acquisition, going out and meeting with new customers and bringing on jobs. Yeah. And Matt is more on the recruiting and account management side. So he kind of starts to take over the process after I bring in the client. And that's been working really well for us. And then right now recruiting is just challenging, finding, in the last few months, we've brought on a lot of new clients, and some of the jobs are just challenging, like we have one partner that we're working with that they're pretty remote. They're up in North Georgia. They have locations in like Demarest and Toccoa Falls and other areas that are just, there's,
not a lot of people up there.
Yeah. And like I can look up the licenses. So like one of them is a board certified behavioral analyst, which is a fairly new one for me. And there's like 15 of those in the whole city where they are. So like very small pool of candidates. Mm-hmm. And I've contacted all of those people.
Yeah. And nobody's interested in moving.
Yeah. Yeah. No one wants to move. It's a beautiful area, but it's people don't that's not on their treehouse list of places they want to
be. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge, so the recruiting side, and then, how to spend my time as a business owner, or
Are you finding jobs are becoming more and more specific, that employers are wanting more specificity in the jobs, in the roles?
So some of the roles that we're working on are definitely that way. Like even the sales roles that we worked on recently for a logistics company, they needed to have very not just logistics experience, but a very minute subset of logistics. And so like a lot of the main companies, the big companies like Saya and some of these big freight carriers and things, that's not the kind of experience they're looking for. So
Yeah.
it's a subset of a
Yeah.
subset. And so, yeah, those have actually been pretty niche. And then healthcare is always kind of niche because for the roles that we work on, they need very specific licensure and experience. Um, but so it just depends on the company and the roles. But yeah, what I'd say is 2 years ago, companies were throwing everything that they could at candidates.
Yeah.
Work remote. Here's free gym membership, ping pong table in the office.
Yeah.
Unlimited PTO, all the benefits. They're paying way over the salary range that they had before. They're throwing everything to get candidates. Now that's shifted quite a bit. The job market's changed quite a bit from that. It's now more of a candidate-driven market. Other than certain industries like tech's getting pounded pretty hard right now with layoffs and stuff like that because AI is disrupting, and tech companies tried to grow probably too quickly during COVID, and they're having to reel back from that a little bit. But yeah, I would say the market has just shifted to where it's more of a client-driven market now. Clients are being more picky. Like you said, they're being more picky about who they want and willing to wait for their unicorn.
And back 2-3 years ago, we also were seeing wages just going through the roof.
Yeah.
Are you seeing some of that moderating these days?
Yeah. So like one of the things that happened during COVID was, you had companies like in Silicon Valley that were paying, or Washington, Seattle, and they're paying cost of living wages. So like they were paying a really high salary. Like you can't pay someone the same salary in North Dakota and have them go live in Seattle. It's just not going to work.
No.
But what would happen is they started figuring out that all of these employees, now that they were fully remote, they were getting paid $250,000 in San Francisco, and then they moved to North Dakota, and they're still making $250,000.
Yeah.
So that has started getting pulled back.
Yeah.
And then you have other companies like Amazon where they're combating that by requiring a full office mandate.
Yeah.
They're full return to office.
Yeah.
And part of that was part of it was they wanted to have, there's a lot of incentives in real estate. Like a lot of those real estate guys really want people back in the offices because they've had an empty office space sitting there for so long. But part of it was also a way to lay people off.
Yeah.
They could require people to come back in the office and require that they have to give resignation if they won't do it.
Yeah.
So then now they don't have to say they did a layoff.
Yeah.
They had people quit.
Yeah.
When really they were kind of forced to quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it really is a shifting in the marketplace.
Yeah.
There's definitely and it continues to shake out.
Yeah, and I think some companies are on hold a little bit right now.
Yeah.
With just those what's going on in the stock market and tariffs and all that kind of stuff. So I think some people are a little trying to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
I think the back half of this year is going to level out quite a bit and settle down. But companies are kind of wait and see right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I think there's been a lot of pent up demand as well. Because the back half of last year, I saw a lot of hesitancy of people to invest and to just wait to get through the election.
Yeah.
And I think then after the election, there was this period of time. It's like, yes, we're going to go. And now we've been hit with this other piece of tariffs and all this uncertainty again. And so now, it's almost this roller coaster that we're on right now.
There's there was definitely, even in the real estate market, people were not buying the election because they wanted to see what was going to happen, who was going to win, and what is their policy going to be. And so, it's like the election happened and everything was kind of positive for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, oh, hey, hold on. Now what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But I tend to agree with you. Not that I'm an economist by any means, but I do think that things are going to shake out, and yeah, Q3, Q4 of this year, we're probably going to see some pretty strong growth. I think we're starting to see some of it already, even with like the job numbers that came out today, and
Yeah,
the
which is
stock
great.
market is it's climbing here the last week. It's starting to claw back
Yeah.
the retraction that we took over the last month and a half.
Yeah, since Liberation Day, it started to come back up a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. So it'll all wash out,
Yeah.
and just it's going to be good. So
Yeah.
so thinking in terms of that, 3 years from now, where do you see Nick and transparent staffing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we want to grow. So I haven't planned out, how many people do we think we'll have on the team by then. But I would like to have grown. I would love to be able to, I love working remotely, so I don't have a strong pull to want to be in the office full time.
Yeah,
But being able to be in the office hybrid of some kind with a team would be exciting.
yeah.
That would be kind of a dream to have my own office space and be able to work in person with people. Um,
Pop in when you want it.
yeah.
Pop out when you want.
Hopefully Matt's not watching this because I know
Yeah.
he doesn't want that. He
Yeah.
wants to stay fully remote, which may end up happening. But being able to grow the team, being able to mentor and teach people under me. I really love mentoring, and I've done that in other ways too outside of business, just being a mentor to people. And I've also had the benefit of great mentors like my grandfather and other people.
Yeah.
So being able to teach other people and provide a career path for someone, for multiple people.
Yeah.
So being able to grow, and then maybe expanding into other industries. I love healthcare.
Yeah.
And one of the benefits of healthcare is, you can't really outsource a doctor.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to be in person. You can't really ship that overseas, or I'm sure
I-
they're gonna
I-
try to AI.
AI is going to try, but there's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in the behavioral health space a lot. And I did see that BetterHelp. Have you heard of BetterHelp?
No.
So BetterHelp's the biggest online therapy platform where like you can just log in and get paired with therapists for mental health needs. They have an AI chatbot now, where if you have you're stressed out with something, you can just log in and talk to a robot about your problems.
Yeah.
And they'll diagnose you. Which just scares me to death.
That kind of that's
I don't know. I just feel like that could be
I think
manipulated.
I mean personally, I think so many of our behavioral and emotional problems have to do with personal relationships anyway.
Yeah.
And when you devoid yourself from that personal relationship, and even in a therapist,
Yeah.
you're really not going to be fixing the issue.
No.
Yeah.
And I think I thought it was even hard doing that remotely versus in person.
Yeah.
Much less take the human out of it altogether.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Who knows in the next 20 years, looking back 20 years ago in 2000, Y2K, we thought the world was going to end. And now here we are in 2025.
Yeah.
Charging ahead.
Well, I've grown up in probably the fastest advancing technology period ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at we have a cell phone now that has the same computing power that originally sent a rocket into space.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that you have so much at your fingertips all the time would be unfathomable, 34 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So wrapping things up, because this is a show for business owners, but it's more about having authentic conversations rather than I don't like these these are the 10 things that you need to know about building your business. Because there's thousands of those podcasts out there.
Yeah.
Right. But all the things that you've learned, all the things that you've gone through, if you had an entrepreneur who's listening now, what's something you would say, this is one thing that I've learned, that I've experienced, that maybe a good thing or a bad thing. One bit of advice that you pass on.
Yeah. I'd say the biggest thing is to not fall for the trap that you have it all figured out. So I would seek out mentors who have walked the path ahead of you.
You mean like business coaches?
Yeah, like a business coach.
You
Yeah.
know any?
Yeah, I could refer you to a really good one. But yeah, I mean, find someone who can help you. Don't try to do everything on your own. So many of the most successful people in the world, you know, failed 10 times before they got it right.
Yeah.
And they would have told you, find someone who has gone through that already
Yeah.
and seek their wisdom and their advice. And you know, for me, that early on, that was my granddad. Now there's other people that I turn to for advice and to just brainstorm things with. And so turn to other people that have walked the path ahead of you, and don't be afraid to ask questions and to be vulnerable, and you know, be able to seek advice.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would say is I love listening to, there's this motivational
Yeah.
speaker called, his name's Earl Nightingale. And he's kind of like a Tony Robbins from another era.
Yeah.
And so he has this thing called the strength thing that he talks about, and that is that you'll become what you think about. So he talks a lot about setting goals and consistently thinking about them. So you like write down a goal for 30 days that you want to, that's, you know, quantitative and achievable, and think about it every day. Look at it on a note card or whatever every day, and you will. It's inevitable that you will get closer to that goal if you do
Absolutely.
that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. You know, in that vein, one of the things I work with my clients is doing I am statements and affirmations, right? And oftentimes we'll do an I am statement that's like very aspirational, right? You know, I'm going to be this, which is like years down the road, right? And where I try and direct people is do an I am statement of who you are a year from now.
Yeah.
Right. Because you know, whoever you're going to be a year from now is different than who you are now. And don't think about, you know, 10 years or the big picture, the dream board, you know, do a dream board because those are fun.
Yeah.
But think incrementally and start to say, okay, I am this person who has 10 employees. I am this person who, you know, and taking that step. And it is much more effective to, you know, Earl Nightingale's point that it's like that incremental piece, and it really drives people forward in a big way.
Yeah.
So
I love that. It reminds me of this. There's a speech that Matthew McConaughey gave when I think when he won an Oscar, and he was talking about how he was asked when he was like a teenager, who do you look up to? Like who do you aspire to?
Yeah.
And he said, me in 10 years.
Yeah.
That's who I look up to.
Yeah.
And that's so cool. And so like 10 years later, the same person asked him that. And he was like, I'm still looking up to me in 10 years.
Yeah.
that's what I'm working toward.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, thinking about who you want to be and where you're headed is having goals.
Yeah.
So important.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate
you having me on the podcast.
Oh, it's been fun.
Yeah.
So, and you know, all of you out there, you can find these podcasts on YouTube. I think the actual channel is at Mike Connor Biz or at Mike Connor Biz Coach. I always forget it, but In The Treehouse. You can search for In The Treehouse and find all of us out there, and look forward to it.
Yeah.
And so thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So,
Great.